Hey man, welcome back to another episode of Halftime Company, man. It's your boy Uncle JB, and man, I just want to say first off, Happy Easter to everybody. I hope you're having a great time with your family, great time with your friends, and I hope you remember the reason for the season, and that is the man himself, Mr. Jesus Christ. And I cannot wait to have this podcast today because the man sitting next to me is a follower of Jesus Christ. And I think that he has a profound story, a profound testimony. Halftime family, you already know him. But today is a special day. So I'm so excited that he came back to sit down and chop it up with us. The man himself, Mr. Hayden Mez. How you doing, man?
Good to see you. Thank you for
Good,
having me
bro.
back on.
Yes, sir,
I
man.
love it
Thank
here.
you for pulling back up,
Oh, of
man.
course, I have to. I have to.
I know it's a very special day for you today
It
too. I mean,
is.
obviously Easter,
Mm-hmm. Of
right? It's a special
course.
day because of Easter, but
Of
also
course.
something personal with you as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to go ahead and tell the halftime family what that is.
Today is 1 year sober for me. So,
Congratulations, bro.
and that just falling on Easter, and we'll get into that, and just how thankful I am to God, and my family and friends, and everybody who stuck with me this past year. Um, already makes me emotional off the bat, but I'm just being from a year ago till now is just I couldn't have done it by myself.
Yeah.
And that's just from God, and that's from my family, and that's from the people who stuck by my side and the people who didn't. That helped me realize the things that needed to be changed, and being able to overcome the things that I did, and help the people that I have along the way from a year ago as well. Also, is something that I'm gonna love to talk about, and just my faith and the things that I've gone through now, because of how God has worked through me, is insane, and I'm excited to talk. I'm excited to be back here with the halftime fam, and
Yeah, man.
last time I was on here was just amazing, and our talk was so powerful and beautiful, and the feedback was awesome, and just kind of coming back a year later is it's amazing to come back and do it
Yeah,
again. So
dude. I'm pumped for you, man, and like honestly, congratulations because like that's not only a big thing to do, but also a big thing to share. Because it is a vulnerable thing to
hmm
talk about, which I don't necessarily understand or agree with. Um, sobriety being this like not cool thing.
hmm
Um, However, it's a very healthy thing.
it is.
And I think not only healthy for your body, but for your mind and for your spirit as well.
Yes.
So I'm pumped for you, man, that
Thank
that
you.
that you achieved that, and it's inspiring. It really is inspiring to not only myself, but I'm sure to the people in your life and the people that you run with.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, especially sobriety, and a lot of things that people who are sober, what keeps them sober is helping other people who want to be sober or want to follow something that's bigger than themselves, or for me that's God, and lately I've been able to not only build up my relationship with Him, but help others kind of put their foot in the
Yeah,
door, and it's really cool to see Him acting in their lives, because of things that they've seen from other people, and them
yeah,
having this interest, and now going and finding him for themselves is it's a feeling like no other. So
yeah. Let's talk about the year for a little bit, real quick, man. So, like, you kind of just said, like, your relationship really kind of grew with God in the past year, right?
mhm.
Like, how was that? Because I know it's a struggle, man. Like, people say, I want to go sober, I want to stop doing something. But, like the first 24 hours, first 72 hours, first week might be terrible.
Yeah.
Like, how did you navigate that?
So we'll bring it back. Last time I was on here, I talked about I just gotten out of rehab. Kind of talked about that a lot. If you go back and watch, I go really in depth into my first couple of days in rehab to weeks and stuff like that. But um, starting out in sobriety, it's not my first rodeo. I've been to rehab multiple times. I was sent away as a kid. I've been through programs, good and bad. And this time, I think the true difference was the hopelessness that I felt. Because before I just thought I had it all under control, and if I just go to rehab, or if I just say a couple things and I just check off a bunch of boxes, like I'll earn everybody's trust back. My faith will be okay. I'll go to church and say I'm a believer, and I'll do all the right things and expect the right outcome. Um, and that's just not how it works. And my first couple of days in rehab, I had been to this rehab before, and I think the difference in me going in there now was just this acceptance of, okay, I can't do it on my own. I've tried everything. I'm doing all these things that I've done before expecting a different outcome, and that's just not going to work. And I think my biggest thing was just going in there and realizing, okay, I can't do this by myself, so let's go and find what can do it, what
Yeah.
can do it for me. And well, it's not for you, but it's with you.
Right.
And um, for me, that was God, and those first couple of days, and I think a huge impact that had on me was my roommate in rehab. His name is Colby, and he was kind of my spiritual guide through rehab. And I just know that God put him in there with me, and made us roommates. And those first couple of nights, I would just ask him, I was just can you just pray for us? And
Yeah.
it slowly turned to him reading scripture at night, and um,
That's amazing, man.
and then we fasted for 3 days together and got rebaptized in the Guadalupe River. And after that, I just had woken up with this purpose of, oh, I want more of this feeling. I want to understand why I feel this way. Um, and at that moment, it was me writing a song in rehab. A lot of people know I do music,
Right.
and so a lot of the ways that I express myself is through writing music. And Colby and we actually went up. There's like this little hill. It's called Serenity Hill. It's up at the top of the program, and there's this huge arch, and it has a bunch of like wooden seats underneath it, and there's just this big cross. And we went up there, and we sat up there together, and I brought the guitar, and I wrote this song in 15 minutes that I didn't write, and he just wrote it for me. And um, it it's called Take Me Now. And I remember writing it and singing it, and I had never felt like so in tune with him before. And when you leave the facility, like when you're checking out, you give a speech to everybody that's in the rehab. You usually give a speech to all the patients and everybody that's there. And instead, I sang that song. And it was the most powerful moment of my life. And I just closed my eyes up in front of everybody, and I played it and I sang the song, and when I opened my eyes, every single person in that room was crying. And um, it was just like a moment where I knew, like, I'm gonna be okay. Like
Mhm.
I know now that God had put me through everything that I had been through so that I can go and inspire others and help others and use his words through me to bring them up. And I've had people, message me later, a couple months later, and they're like, "Your song, I still think about your song every day. It still helps me stay sober." And like that's just like being able to feel that feeling. Not only is motivating for me, but um, just knows that it's just like, okay, these are just signs after signs that it's just not. I'm not doing it by myself. Like
Yeah.
I'm able to relay a message from him through me, and that's just the most powerful feeling that you can have.
Yeah, dude, that's sick.
Yeah,
That's
it
sick.
was amazing, and I've been putting it off because I just want it to be the right moment. But I think here and then this coming weekend or next weekend, have a guitarist and a pianist that are gonna come in, and we're gonna record it. And I've been waiting for the right moment. It's been a year, so it's got to be the right moment now. So I'm
Gotta
excited.
be.
I'm excited to get that recorded and finally get that out because it's a beautiful song.
I did have one question though, 'cause you said something that kind of sparked my interest just a
Hmm.
minute ago. You talked about how, when you're in rehab and you're doing all that, like it wasn't really until you found God that it really kind of all gelled together for you?
Mm-hmm.
Because I hear this all the time. I hear this saying or this mantra, right? Like you don't need God or Jesus, you need therapy.
Mm.
But in your case, it was vice
It
versa.
was the complete opposite. Yeah.
You needed God. I mean, yes, I'm not saying you didn't need rehab, you didn't
Mm-hmm.
need therapy, right? But what I'm saying is the factor, the thing that made you go was God,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yes. And the whole reason I went to rehab is, um, I talked about it a lot last time, but I was, I was ready to take my life, and the day I was ready to take my life, which is just crazy, was actually Good Friday 2 days ago. So it's the way that a year later it was Good Friday, and then my sobriety date is Easter, and God knew that I needed a smack in the face of just like the reality, like, hey, I'm doing these, like I'm showing you, like, okay, and that smack in the face when I was in rehab was huge. So I was there for a couple of days, and he knew that I needed like something really, because I had, like you were saying, I had been through therapy and I had been through all these rehabs already, and I could put myself in a room for 2-3 hours and completely phase out and put myself anywhere in the world. And I was able to manipulate a system, and I was able to say all the right things, and I was able to make all the therapists and counselors and staff all in love with me, and kind of ease my way through everything and make it really believable that I'm doing really good. And that was just how I was trained, going to wilderness twice as a kid, and going to the residential treatment centers, and going to ones that were physically and emotionally abusive, and having to put myself in situations where I just blocked out my entire mind, and having kids from there that I know commit suicide. And there's just been a lot of things that have built up to where I can make my mind go somewhere else very easily.
Yeah.
And God knew I needed a huge sign, just something that was like, okay, this couldn't have happened any other way. And I was there for a couple of days, and I had just completely given up, and I was on my knees next to my bed in rehab, and I was just praying. I was just like, God, please give me a sign, like show me some, show me. I said, show me how to be honest, because I had lied my way through life. I had lied my way through every relationship. I had lied my way through school. I had lied my way through anything that had to do with my parents, money, even music. Like I was just being somebody I wasn't. I had just lied my way through life, and I just asked him. I said, "Show me how to be honest." And 8 months before I had been in rehab, um, I had went and gotten a haircut, and I had no money at the time. This was a day before I had a huge show, like my sold out show in Austin, my first one, and I didn't have any money. And I went to a haircut place called Finley's in Austin. Some people probably know it, and I
Yeah.
was just like, knowing that I was just gonna go and steal, and um, just in a place where I didn't even care. Like I was all me, me, me. And I walked in there, and my whole plan was just to go in there, get the haircut, and say I left my wallet in the car, and that's what I did. I walked in there, and when came time to pay, I said, "Hey, I left my wallet in the car," and I went to my car and I drove away, and I never really thought about it again. And I'm in rehab, and I'm feeling hopeless, and I just ask him, just teach me to be honest, like show me it's gonna be okay. And I get to lunch late that day, and I'm about like 10 minutes late, and I sit down at the table, and all the guys that I'm sitting with are talking about Finley's, the barbershop, and it sounds like the guy sitting next to me is someone who works there. And I'm like, I hope he doesn't work at the one that I walked out of, because I'm just like nervous sitting over here. And I asked the question. I was like, "Hey, like, do you work at Finley's?" And the dude next to me on my right goes, "Dude, that's Scott Finley. He owns them." And he was a patient next with me
That is
in
crazy.
rehab, and I uh, I just was stunned, and I was silent for like the rest of the lunch, and And an hour later, after a group that we had, I got the courage. I walked up to him and I said, I don't know what's going on right now, but this morning I prayed for something, to be honest, and to show me a sign. And I have to tell you right now that 8 months ago, like I walked into your store and I stole from you, and I just walked out and I didn't pay for my haircut or anything. And he just looks at me and goes, "I love you," and God put us in here for a reason, and just gave me a huge hug. And he was one of my closest people in there the entire time. And then the day before he left, he came to my room and gave me a haircut.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
bro. That's cool. Full
And
circle, huh?
yeah, and that's when I was like, okay, like thank you. Like
Yeah.
that is the smack dab that I needed to be like, okay, there's something so much bigger than myself out here. And that's when I really dove into the program, and that's when I fasted for 3 days, and I only drank water, and then I got rebaptized. And when I went underwater, the one thing that I said was, I forgive myself. And when I came out of that water, I just, I just felt clean,
Yeah.
new. I felt loved. That was the biggest thing. This unconditional love that I'd never felt before. As I talked about last time, stemming back from adoption and
Yeah, dude.
and growing up and trying to fit in and doing all these things. And um, once I left rehab is when reality hit. And it was, okay, like you went and had this amazing 30 days. You went and you found all this beautiful love for God and this faith, and you met these amazing people, and you wrote this beautiful song, and you're on this high horse and everything around you is perfect. And you get back in the real world and you just you still did a lot of fucked up shit that you need to fix. Like,
Yeah.
you may have gone in there and I don't. I try not to curse very much anymore, but that is just a good. That was just how I had to put it.
I'll tell you, bro.
Yeah,
This happens.
yeah. I just
It's language. It's okay.
and I just realized I was just like, oh my gosh, like my initial reaction was like, oh, I'm better. Like everybody, I'm better. But that's just not how anybody sees you when you come in. Like, you have the reality hits, and you're like, well, I have so much work. I still have so much work to do, and I will forever have work to do.
Yeah.
But that's when my faith really kicked in, and um, it was waking up every day, and for me, helping other people, or getting involved with other people really helps me get in line with myself too. So I'd wake up and I'd send out a devotional every day, like a screenshot of it on my phone, to a bunch of people, and I'd read a little bit of the Bible, and I'd go for a walk, and I'd listen to some worship music. And um, that was, for the first 2-3 weeks when I got out, is like what I really. I went to AA meetings, and
Hmm.
did all of the normal things you're supposed to do when you get out. And um, that was, the first couple weeks when I got out, is how I stayed sober, was just using the tools that I learned in rehab, and using God, right when I woke up in the morning, um, and having Him use me for other people as well, even if it's just a small, text message here or there, or a screenshot of something that I like, or a verse that I saw, or something like that. And um, so that was like for the first couple weeks to a month, is how I kind of stayed in that
Yeah. That's dope, man.
sobriety.
And like you kind of talked about it, you know. So I want to shift to music as well with
Hmm.
you. You talked about when you're in rehab, you wrote that song, and
Hmm.
how when you, instead of doing the speech, you perform, and how it moved everybody.
Hmm.
And like we talked about last time on the podcast, how you're trying to have this shift towards like a different style of music, right? Like,
Hmm.
do you feel like you've sonically been able to find that, or like walk me through like musically where you're at right now?
I'm just listening.
Mm,
I haven't made a song in probably 6 months. I haven't. I mean, I haven't recorded a song in 6 months. I have written a lot. I've written a lot down in a journal. I've written a lot on my phone. Um, but right now, I'm just listening. I I want the music that I make and record to be something that's truly inspiring and something that can help other people rather than just boast about me and my lifestyle and who I am and everything that I was trying to do before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though it's fun and it's a lot of validation and there's a lot of recognition and it's way easier to go that route and it's way easier to just, you know, party and, flex all your whatever
Oh, yeah.
stuff that you have and, it's way easier to do that, but um, I've seen how unhappy, it makes me, and I've seen how unhappy it makes other people, and I've seen what it does to relationships, and you know, for me, it's just right now with the music is just listening and and to be a vessel in the future, and that is something that I really want to do. I don't know if it's gonna be just I'm just gonna go and make Christian worship music, and that I definitely want to do a lot of that, but I definitely want to do a lot of, storytelling of of my life and the things that I've been through and maybe even something cool is like having people come to me and tell me their stories and make them a song
Mm-hmm.
and do something along that route. I think that would be super cool. Just like if people like wanted me to write something for them and
Yeah.
something. I don't know. I don't know
Well, I
is the
mean, yeah. I
answer.
mean, the
So.
thing is too is like you shouldn't. God's not trying to bound you,
Hmm.
right? And I think in a lot of ways, right, when you look back at when Jesus was around, the Pharisees were asked like, "Why are you sitting there hanging out with these people? Like
Hmm.
they're Gentiles,
Yeah.
man. They're worldly people.
Yeah.
They're secular. They're
Hmm.
not clean. They're not good." I always tell because I had a conversation with somebody the other day about this, about secular music and God music, and I said one of my favorite Bible verses is, respect your parents so you can live long, right?
Mm.
Well, one of the songs that made me really want to respect my mama was "Dear Mama" by Tupac.
Mm.
That's not a Christian song by no means.
Yeah.
That is a real song. That is a heartfelt song. That is a life song. That's something that's honest. That's true.
Yeah.
It comes from a real place. You cannot tell me that song is garbage because it's quote unquote secular.
Hmm.
Can't tell me that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not when I first heard it as a kid, I cried. And I still cry today when I hear that song because of how much emotion. And that's the thing. Our lives are supposed to be testimonies. We're supposed to share our life, and he shared his life in that song for his mama. And if that, and I'm not, of course, I want to give praise all the time to God. I do. But he told me to respect my mother. And so to me, that song, by respecting his mother, is respecting God's word.
Hmm.
So how is that secular?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah. I
I
do.
don't want you to get tied up in this idea of, well, I didn't make a song about loving God. I made a song about loving my brother or
Hmm.
loving my sister
Yeah.
or loving my aunt. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I made a song about respect or and I tied in some of those qualities that he's given me in my life as well. And I intertwined that. It's the the book of Hayden you're
Mm.
listening to. Like is it supposed to be all sunshines and roses?
No, no, and I want to have fun with it too, and I want to go make country music and dance music, and
As you should.
I
As you
want to
should.
work with all types of artists, and but I do want to prioritize,
Yeah.
and
And I think that's great.
and that's a big thing that I've had to realize also through faith and through this journey of sobriety is where my priorities are,
Yeah.
because I have seen myself slip up in a lot of ways, and there have been times when um, I've had days where I'm like, okay, Hayden, you are falling back into some of your old ways. Like
Mm.
you need to. Why is this happening? Like where is this stuff coming from? and what are the things that you need to do to kind of pull yourself back out of this hole. Um, and I think something that I heard recently when I was in church was really good, and they were talking about, prioritizing. I'll pull this up really quick because it's so good. So a lot of times, for me, what I had to do when I was in those moments where, I was really struggling with, Hayden, why are you kind of falling back in these old ways? I had to like really prioritize my time um, with God, and that wasn't, and I haven't done anything, and I'm still pretty new to Scripture, and I've had some mentors recently that have really been helping me, and something that stood out to me is just don't give God your leftovers. Don't
Yeah, that's great.
don't
That's
just
great.
pray here and there and apologize here and there, and um, like wake up in the morning and give 5 or 10 minutes and start your day like that. Like I had to do when I first got out of rehab. Was I started my day like that every day, and I saw when my life was kind of going back into these ways of how it used to be, and I was kind of in this ego mode again. And they talk about in the big book of AA, like the biggest thing that leads you back into right before you relapse before you relapse. So that is the biggest thing. Like before you drink again or before you do a line of cocaine again, you have already relapsed. And that is just with, how you're living your life. Um, and, you know, for me, being able to catch my relapse before the relapse
Mm,
has been really, really amazing because, it's also about, the people that I have in my life that will tell me, yo, bro, like, come on. Like, there's some
yeah,
things that I see that you're doing that, may or may not be aligning with what you're trying to do. And that's just like, those people that you keep around that will keep you accountable, which are the people that I didn't want around in the
right,
past.
right, right.
Um, and I think just also getting involved with, helping others has really helped me, you know, get to where I am now. I've had a lot of people since the last podcast reach out and be like, Hayden, like, how do you do it? Like,
That's
how do
amazing.
you stay sober? Like, how do you go? And have been, I've done recovery and sobriety the most unconventional way possible. Like,
Yep.
I've gone to all the clubs. I've gone to Miami for a week with a buddy of mine, and we just in the club every single night, doing whatever, just bottle service. And um I think I was trying to test myself, which is you should never ever do that in recovery. um but for some reason I went and did that, and it was like, okay, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. But then I had to catch myself and be like, how am I starting that sentence? It's with I. If I can catch myself, or if I can do this, or if I can do this, or if I can do this. And that is me just leading myself back down the path, because they talk about in recovery, and especially a lot when you start, your selfishness and self centeredness is your relapse before relapse. When you start living in I, when I can do this, when when I'm able to take control. And in those moments, you know, thankfully God was on my side as he always is, but he held my hand through all of that, and I didn't relapse, and I didn't, drink, and I didn't do those things. And yeah, it built up a lot of confidence in me, but it's not the right kind of confidence. I kind of had to step back after all that and think about, okay, yeah, good job for going and doing all that stuff and
Yeah.
and not relapsing, but it's not the right way of building that confidence. You need to, in my personal experience for myself, I need to, build that relationship with God and build that relationship with my family and my friends, and the people around me rather than going out and just testing myself in spaces that I know that I shouldn't really put myself in. And nor do they make me happy.
Right.
It's cool to be around all the girls and have all the bottle service and, be with Bobby Shmurda in the club and have him with us all night. And like, that is like instant gratification and it's fun and
It's
you think
great.
it's
Yeah.
cool, but you look back on it and
What does it mean?
it just doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And, it's nothing towards them. Like, they're great
No,
people,
nothing
but
towards them,
for
but
me, it's not where I want to be, and it's not impacting the people that I want to impact. I think that God put me through everything that I've been through in life to come back out on the other side and be an inspiration and, be able to give back what He's given me. And when I'm doing those things and I'm in those moments, I'm only thinking really about myself and what I can get out of it. And that is just not that life I want to live anymore.
yeah. I mean, but at the same time, like you mentioned on the last podcast, man, like you're there's a lot of things that you want to change and focus on, and one of those things was like being, more present as a father, right? And like, going out to clubs and stuff like that doesn't necessarily coincide with, spending time with your kid, right?
Exactly.
So it's like you have to have like this mindset shift to say, hey, you know what? Again, what are my priorities?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I'm not saying that you're gonna neglect like having a good time with your friends or going out with your friends, but at the same time, your priority is your kid now, right?
Exactly.
And how has that? Because I know like there's been some progress,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So how's that been like? Stepping more into your kid's life.
I've been excited to share this. Yeah, definitely right when I got out of rehab and um it was an uphill battle. I don't think a lot of people thought I was gonna stay sober and do it. And there's times I doubted myself. And um, thankfully the mother of my child is amazing and she's given me chance after chance after chance and I'm so thankful for that. And for the first 6, 7 months, I was really scared. Um, I didn't know where to even start. I've been absent for 7 years. I've been in and out of this drug and alcohol lifestyle, and I had, you know, living a life that not only should not a kid ever be around, but many more people shouldn't be around at all either. Um, and I think at the beginning of when my sobriety, I just had a lot of regret. And I think that kind of held me back a little bit from diving right in right away. But also, it's like they needed to see that I was gonna, be truthful and if I wanted to be, in my son's life, it was, you're either all in or you're all out. You can't just come in and kind of be there when you want. And a couple weeks ago is kind of really when it all turned. Um, I'd seen him, you know, a couple times here and there, and kind of slowly getting back in, and she's just been amazing, and she's just been rooting for me, and but also just being careful with my progress and my sobriety, and I think as she's seen the progress and as my faith has just grown and me praying as well to just be present. And that's really all it is. It's just like,
Yeah.
just be present and don't do it for any other reasons other than the love that you have and the love that you've felt. And I think the biggest thing too is my father passing away um 2 years ago, and just knowing the impact that he had on me, um and knowing I wouldn't be where I am today without him, and just thinking about all the amazing memories that we have together, and all the things that he's done for our family and myself, and just when I think back on, these memories growing up and all these places that, I have in my mind, it's just, these just amazing love-filled moments with my dad. And my mom, of course, too, but, um, he just, he taught me how to throw the ball, and he taught me how to ride the bike, and he taught me how to talk to girls, and he taught me how to do all the, um, just the little things that added up today that are just the biggest things ever.
Yeah.
And losing him in the hardest time of my life when I was truly the most I was in my addiction and in my alcoholism is there's been so much regret that I have felt because of that, where over the last like year I've had to really turn to God and pray for him to take that regret and turn it into joy. Um, because I didn't think I was deserving to be a father. I didn't think I knew how to be a father. I didn't think I was ever gonna be a father. Um, I didn't think I had the ability to love a son when I couldn't even love myself.
Mm.
Um, I still struggle, and I think the biggest moment for me is when I forgave when God told me that I'm forgiven for all the things I've done and I can say goodbye to my father, um, and truly just be happy and joyful for the life that he lived and the moments that we got to spend together and the impact that he had on me. It changed my entire mind to, okay, now I want to go and do that. Like I don't know where I'd be in life without the impact that my father had on me.
Mm.
So I want to take that and go and be that for him. And my biggest, one of my biggest hills to climb was, um, his family. I didn't have a good relationship with. Um, I burned that bridge a long time ago, and I reached out to um, grandma and just asked, hey, I would love to get together and I would love to apologize for some things that I've said and done in the past. And, I'd love to have an open heart and see where it goes. And we got together and we had a conversation. And, it's beautiful how God had entered her life as well
Mm.
and softened her heart. And that's something that she told me. She looked at me, she said, Hayden, I didn't want you in his life ever.
Yeah.
I was okay with him not knowing you because of what you had done and because of you never being here. And, thankfully God had softened my heart. And she had said, I watched your podcast, the one that we had done before, and she said that really moved me. And this was a couple days before his birthday, because they wanted to get together because I was going to go to his birthday party, his
Yeah.
7th birthday party. They had invited me to, and they wanted to get together. And um, we just had a great conversation that was long overdue. And I'm just so grateful that God had softened her heart and was able to have that conversation with me. Um, and going to that birthday party right before um, the birthday party, she sent me a text and she said, Jones is so excited for you to come. Just to let you know, he's going to be calling you dad and telling everybody around that his dad's coming. And he had never called me that before. And when I showed up to that birthday party and went up and gave him a hug, and he looked at me and said, "Hi, Dad." Like, oh my goodness, that was the coolest moment in my life. And I had to go in the bathroom for a second. Like, I,
Yeah.
I had to go and like I was just tearing up, and I met all the other parents, and I met his teacher, and one of the kids in his class is actually a buddy of mine that I play golf with. That we had no idea, and that was super cool. It was just like small world stuff, but just seeing the light in his eyes and And, you know, the old me would have been like, why did you waste so much time? Like, just seeing this beautiful child that is like just perfect. You know, the old me would have been, you know, why did you waste so much time and just gotten down on myself? But now it's just like I'm just so thankful that I'm able to be where I am and, you know, have the conversations that I've had and take the steps that I've taken, and, you know, that God has put me in a position where he thinks I'm ready to come into his life and be his father. And I used to be so embarrassed of just like, oh, I'm just a young kid with a kid, and like I just, you know, I just used to feel so judged, and, you know, I let other people's judgment gauge how I acted in my life and the things that I did. And I think that, you know, I didn't early on. I didn't want to be the young dude with a kid. I wanted to be the guy that just went out and did everything he wanted, and, you know, but now it's just like I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy, and that I'm now in the position to be a father to him. And, you know, it's gonna take time, and I got to build that relationship up with him. And, you know, I had my first real kind of dad moment at his birthday. I bought him a scooter,
Oh,
and
damn, okay.
he was riding it around, and actually, he wasn't riding the scooter I bought him. He was riding one of those, like, dude, the gadgets these kids got these days are
Oh, man.
so cool.
It's
It's
so
like this
cool.
this scooter like drifts all around, but he came around the corner and went over a little stair and just flew into the wall and flew out. Just started crying. I just had to run over there and pick him up and calm him down. And, like, even though, like, he had gotten hurt, it was just a beautiful moment of just, you know, being present with him, and
Being
and just
present.
holding him. And and now it's like the whole thing is just being present and being there, and, you know, just holding him. And in that moment it was just like I felt my father in
Yeah.
me. And, um you know, after that I just kind of went outside for a second, looked up, and kind of said hi to my dad, and was just like, thank you. And, you know, we just had a great time and did a scavenger hunt around the neighborhood. And, you know, it's just crazy to think that you can be so unready. You can think you're so unready for something in your life, and when you give up the I think, and just let God come into your life, and just let him work how ready he will make you.
It's crazy. Like you said it already. Um, you know, your father had instilled so many things into you that even though you didn't know that you could be a father, didn't know how to be a father, all you had to do was turn to his life. And God had gave you that.
Hmm.
So in a way, God had already prepared you for it,
Exactly.
you
And
know?
that's just the thing that we've been talking about this past week. It's like my buddy Reagan Popoff, him, great guy. He's one of the guys that's led me, you know, to God over the last 2 or 3 years. He's really done the work, and, you know, he is very big on social media, and he uses that to the best of his ability. And, you know, about 2 or 3 years ago, when he really started, you know, posting about it, you know, I was getting dragged. You know, I was
Yeah.
watching the post, and it was slowly pulling me in. And, you know, this last week he came into town just at the just at the right time. Like,
Yeah.
there's just, and, you know, he's talking about, you know, God. Like, I remember we were saying, God prepares you, you just don't know it. He prepares you for this time, and you're ready. And,
It's a scary jump.
yeah.
Just like birds jumping out of a tree, like they're prepared for it.
Uh-huh.
It's scary, man. It's
Yeah.
like, am I gonna fall? You know, like you might.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might.
So,
But you can get picked back up, you
mhm.
know. And I think that you did a beautiful job in that. Your life, your testimony, it shows that. And I'm proud of you because you're doing the work. And I'm not saying that you've done the work. I'm saying you're doing the work.
Mhm.
You're actively saying, hey, you know what? I want to be better.
Yeah.
You're actively saying, hey, you know what? This is my life. I'm gonna be present. I'm gonna take control. I'm not gonna become this quote unquote I can't even say the word right.
Statistic.
There you go. He helped me out. Y'all know my tongue a little crazy. statistic. Oh, kind of said it right
There
there.
you go.
Did it? I did it. But no, man. I think that where you are, the space that you're in, is such a beautiful space, and I just don't want you to rush the process ever.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be long, but that's the beauty of walking with God. Is
Yeah.
that we get to enjoy the like when you think about like a hike when you will hike a 14er. It's not easy.
No,
It's hard.
it's
It's
hard.
hard work. But when you get to the top, you're like, oh my gosh, all this is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. And so I'm just pumped for you, man. And before we get out of here, obviously, like I asked you last time, so it may change. But what's something that's important to you in today's world that you want to bring awareness to?
Biggest thing is just being able to share what you've learned. Being a follower of God and Jesus Christ, like the biggest thing you can do is just go and be a disciple. I'm still very new to Scripture, and I'm new to this life, and but I just see how it works in my life, and the signs that I've been getting just as I'm following and trying to share as well, how it can just be given back to you. Like just the other night, my buddy Reagan, Jonah, Angus, and this girl Maya that we're with are all just sitting at dinner at Chewy's, and we all put our heads down before we ate and we prayed and we talked about God the entire time, and everybody's standing on it, and just had an amazing, beautiful conversation. And when it came time to pay, the waiter came by and we were like, "Can we get the check?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And we were like, "The check to pay." And he's like, "Oh, we don't do that." And we're like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Somebody paid for your guys' entire meal."
Wow.
And I can only think that someone saw us praying and, just paid for our entire meal.
Just
And
somebody was moved. Just
yeah,
I want to take care of it.
yeah. And then after that, all of us went to Zilker Park and took our shoes and our socks off and put our feet in the grass and, just sat there. And we were sitting there, and Reagan said something that was amazing. And we were looking, it was a full moon. He was looking at the moon and he goes, "The moon's a lot like us." And we're like, "How?" He's like, "Because the moon doesn't shine its own light." He said the moon reflects what the sun gives it, and shines it onto us. And we're just like that with Jesus. He said Jesus reflects onto us what we can share with other people. And I still have chills when he said that. And I was just, "You're so right." Like, we can be that for everybody in this world, and we can be a light, and, we can take what we've learned and everything we've been through, and, instead of this regret and hardship and everything that, we're angry about, we can just be thankful that, we have the ability, to be forgiven. And with that can take how we've been forgiven to help other people forgive themselves. I think the biggest thing is just, go out there and help other people and be a disciple and, fall in love with God and your faith, and you'll fall in love with yourself. And I'm just so grateful to be standing here a year later and grateful to be with you. And, hopefully this just inspires one person, and that one person goes on and inspires another, and it just is a whole wave effect. And
You just never know who you can affect, man.
yeah. Gosh, I just can't get out what Reagan said. It's so good.
Yeah,
It's just so good.
that's amazing, man.
So
It's
good.
so good, dude.
Yeah.
It's and that's beautiful that you have friends like that. You have family. You have the support system you need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously here at halftime and here with us family, we're gonna continue to support Hayden. This is probably not. You saw him once. Now you saw him twice. You're
Oh, we
probably
coming
gonna
back
see
for
another
3.
time
Oh
now.
yeah.
So again, this is the reason for this podcast is to support our family, and Hayden is our family, and I cannot thank you enough
Thank you
for being willing to come on this platform and share vulnerable things.
Yeah.
So, man, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless your friends, and God bless everybody that's watching this. We hope y'all have an amazing Easter, and we will see y'all real soon. With that said, halftime family. Yeah. My man.